If you allow me, Vivek, ma'am, can we start?
Please go ahead.
Yes, absolutely.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, teachers. Good afternoon, Amita ma'am, Vivek. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here today. Welcome to Ideas That Matter, series of webinars by Shuluni University, Kasauli Hills, Himachal Pradesh. The ideas behind Ideas That Matter was very simple. It was to meet each other, get into a dialogue, and inspire each other. Inspire each other because we'd love to inspire our students. Students who are there at home during COVID, and teachers need to be inspired to inspire students in between. So that's the whole idea. We've now done around 40 such webinars across the country, Vivek and I. We've touched around 30,000 teachers by now. And it's a true honor and a privilege to be part of your school's webinar. So with that, I'd love Amita ma'am to please introduce her school and speak to us for a minute. And then I'll request my very dear friend Vivek to take over. But as a quick introduction, Vivek Atray is an ex-IAS officer, a TEDx speaker, a motivational speaker. But more importantly for me, as I always say, a very dear friend and also a visiting faculty at Shuluni University. My background, as I said, my name is Atul Khosla. I'm the founder and pro-vice chancellor of Shuluni. I'm a BTech from IIT Kanpur, MBA from Jamnalal Bajaj, Mumbai, and then spent 20 years in the industry, 7 different countries, 35 different cities, multinationals like McKinsey and Company and Oliver Wyman, where I was the Indian CEO. And 7 years back, 2013, the teaching bug hit me and I decided not to make rich people richer anymore. So I'm a very proud teacher now and I love to teach. And I'm so excited to be in the company of teachers. I hope my energy exudes what I'm saying and I'm not lying. I hope you believe that I truly love to be a teacher. Over to you, Amita ma'am, before we hand it over to Vivek.
So, good afternoon, and I'd like to say a very warm welcome to all my colleagues. And we are truly delighted that we have in our midst 2 such eminent personalities. And we'd like to thank Shulini University for making this webinar possible. And what is special about this afternoon's webinar, and perhaps that sets it apart from all the series that you've been doing so far, is that we not only have teachers with us this afternoon, but we have our students from grades 11 and 12 attending this webinar as well. Because we felt that, like our teachers, it's also very important for our senior students to understand the importance of emotional intelligence. So I really don't want to take up more of this valuable time that we have with you, Vivek. And it's over to you. And we look forward to a very stimulating afternoon's discussion. So once again, thank you very much, Shulini University, for making this possible. And we are delighted to partner with you. Indus Valley World School is a very young school in Kolkata. It's a city which has schools which are over 175 years old. As compared to those, Indus Valley World School is only 11 years old. So we are a new kid on the block, but we are a bunch of extremely enthusiastic teachers, and we are very proud of our school, and we're looking forward to a very enriching afternoon. So with those words, it's over to you, Vivek.
Thank you. Atul? Atul, you're on mute, I think.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, now we can.
So I'm sorry, everyone. There's a power outage here, so I switched on to my mobile. Till I get the technology in place, Vivek, over to you.
Thank you, Atul. Thank you very much. And thank you, Amita ma'am, for this introduction. And welcome. And thank you, Shulini University, once again, the team, Shikha, Kamal, everyone else who's put together this webinar. It's great to be reaching out to Indus Valley School in Kolkata, which I believe is a new school. And I also believe that we were to have this webinar last week when you had a crisis because of the storm, and Kolkata was set back by quite a bit because of that. I'm so happy to see how resilient you are and how quickly you bounced back from that crisis. And here we are in a webinar on emotional intelligence. Also seeing that more than 200 people have already joined on Zoom. And I'm sure that many would have joined on YouTube as well. It's wonderful to see that teachers as well as students and their parents perhaps are also joining. So ma'am, let me just tell you that these webinars are basically not only to reach out and tell people about these topics, but also to make you feel and them feel good about life in general. We have been through one of the worst crises in human memory, and it is something that has shaken people up, jolted them out of their comfort zones, and made people rethink about life, etc. Perhaps the divine had a message for us and wanted us to think deeply about life. It could have been that, or it could have been that we were just being naughty as humanity as a whole, and we were not looking after our planet as well as we should have, and the ecosystem, life on the planet was suffering. So maybe these are the reasons why we had to suffer this bad shake-up and jolt, and a lot of people lost their lives also. But there is so much more to say about life than just this crisis. And I'm sure that we will emerge stronger from it as a globe, as a world, as a community of people across the world. I am a speaker on various topics, but my favorite topic is emotional intelligence. So thank you for choosing this topic. And I believe that if you have intelligence, there is nothing unique about you because everyone is reasonably intelligent. You may be more intelligent than the next person, so that makes you outstanding. But if you have emotional intelligence, it makes you truly a great human being. And emotional intelligence has been defined by Daniel Goleman. I'm sure some of your teachers have studied social psychology. And in that, Daniel Goleman tells them that firstly, you have to be aware of yourself, and then you have to have empathy for others. My simple definition of emotional intelligence is the ability to handle people and situations in a calm and balanced manner. So if you are able to handle people and situations in a calm and balanced manner, then it means that you have a high degree of emotional intelligence. In any case, what is our interaction with, or who is our interaction with most of the time? Even when we are using technology like this, we are sitting before a computer screen or a phone screen, but we are interacting with people. People are at the other end. When we talk on a telephone, it used to be unique many years ago. Now it is not unique. It is just passé. You know, it's something that keeps happening to everyone. You know that WhatsApp calls or telephone calls or video calls, and now these Zoom calls and other things, they are part of our life. Who are we dealing with? Whether we are dealing with them sitting next to us or dealing with them remotely on technology-aided platforms. I'm an electronics engineer from NIT Kurukshetra, apart from being from the IAS and being a writer. I consider myself to be a little bit of an all-rounder. However, I feel that the greatest asset that I have accumulated in my years is the ability to deal with people. And people skills are something that most of us in the technology-driven generation are lacking. What happens when we are wedded to technology, when we are too much into technology, when we are sitting all day before a screen? What happens is that we become a little too much involved in the virtual world. Now, when we talk about an online class, like some of you teachers must be taking online classes and talking to students online, that I do not include in that kind of experience, which is perhaps superfluous and not required. I include this as an essential kind of experience. If you are teaching in the class or you're teaching online, essentially you are teaching. The methodology has changed, the medium has changed, the technology has changed, the platform has changed, but you are speaking to students. It may be that the students have parents sitting with them in the classes these days, or neighbors or cousins or whoever, which makes your task more difficult. I know that many students are here from class 11 and 12, and they know more about technology than people of our generation do. However, ultimately, it is people skills that matter. I have a firm belief Now, what are people skills and what is emotional intelligence got to do with all this? Basically, people skills are those skills which enable us to understand others, to respond and react accordingly. If I am speaking to you from Chandigarh, Atul Khosla is speaking to you from Solar. You are in Kolkata or nearby, wherever you are, and many other people may be watching this on YouTube later across India. All of us are connected by this medium. All of us are different personalities. No two personalities are the same. Twins also have some differences. My sisters are twins. They are 5 years younger than me. When they were small, they were unrecognizable from each other. Only I, as their brother, or my mom and dad, we could distinguish between the two. They are identical twins and nobody could make out one from the other. Their habits and thoughts and even dreams at times were the same. However, over time, things change. Even they adopt different habits, different lifestyles, different homes have come to them. So they have become a little different from each other. Essentially the same. However, two human beings cannot be identical. Therefore, if we are in our comfort zone, understanding only ourselves and not able to appreciate someone from a different background, then we cannot appreciate people at all. So if somebody from America or someone from a village comes to Kolkata, and let's say the American and the villager are sitting next to you and you are from Kolkata, they are sitting in your office or in your room and they are talking to you at the same time, you are hearing two different languages, two different thought processes, two different wavelengths, two different mindsets. And you have to respond in a manner which is neutral, which is appreciative of both mindsets. And you have to give some kind of feedback and some kind of response which helps both of them to understand your answer to whatever they came for. I've been in the IAS, as I said, I've been deputy commissioner, I've been SDM. I resigned from the IAS 2.5 years ago because perhaps my emotional intelligence became a little too high, or perhaps I was thinking too creatively. I wanted to be outside the government, to speak to youngsters, especially across India. So I realized when I was in the IAS that one person coming to me was a villager who had a problem in his water channel passing nearby his house. And the next person who came to me wanted to organize a Greek food festival in my area. These two individuals are extremes, extreme wavelengths, different mindsets, different thought processes. Therefore, I have to have a wide expanse of understanding in order to appreciate number one as well as number two. In order to appreciate a youngster as well as my mother-in-law, my father-in-law, or anyone else, I need to be totally an all-rounder. I need to be able to gel, as the youngsters might say, both with my age group, with younger people, as well as with older people. Then I become a complete human being. My understanding levels, my appreciation levels are different. So just let me give you an example. One example is that supposing you have to scold someone for some reason. You are an older brother, you have to scold your younger brother for something. You are a teacher, you have to scold a student for something. You are the principal, you have to scold a staff member for something. How are you going to go about it? Some people lose their cool. Some people lose control over their language, their temper, their voice, their whatever. Other people retain their calm balance while telling the other person that this was wrong. They are firm, but they are not ill-tempered. They never use uncouth language or uncivilized words. They never start shouting at top volume. Who do we actually lose our temper with normally? Normally, people we take for granted. Emotional intelligence means we don't take people for granted. We understand that when we say something, it will hurt them if we say it negatively, if we say it harshly. Emotional intelligence means when I scold someone, I don't scold them in front of their juniors, in front of their little brothers and sisters, in front of someone before whom they will feel very, very, very impacted by that scolding. If I scold someone in private, one or two people are sitting, it's okay. If I scold someone in front of 100 people, it will stay with them. So a teacher's remark to a student in class, which might humiliate that student, will stay with that student for many years. A student's remark to another student in front of friends, which is belittling that student or is unparliamentary or is putting down that student, will also stay. So emotional intelligence is for everybody. Whom to say what to, in front of whom, and how. This is the key. Whom to say what to, in front of whom, and how. This is emotional intelligence. You may be feeling something within which makes you angry at a person. This person has been irritating you a lot in school, at home, and the bus. You still retain your firmness and calmness and balance while talking to this person. What do you earn out of that? You earn respect. You earn goodwill. If you look at what is the goal of life, the goal of life is probably to earn happiness. It is not to earn money. It is not material success. It is not fame, power, and money. It is actually goodwill and respect and happiness. So if you earn happiness from within, your respect levels will be high and people will like you, love you, want to be with you, want to talk to you because of the way you are. That is something which really depends on your inner makeup. And if I look at this book lying with me, I'm going to show it to you because most of you are from Kolkata anyway, and you are familiar with Paramhansa Yogananda, the autobiography of a yogi, covered in so many languages. I love this book. I follow the teachings of Yogananda ji. I follow Kriya Yoga meditation. My wife and I meditate twice a day. I have done it this morning also. He was from Kolkata. He was from Godpur Road, if I'm saying it correctly, in the slightly Bengali accent. His name was Mukund Lal Ghosh. I know some of you are Ghosh. I saw the name coming up. He was a world level spiritual teacher, yogi. He said, be calmly active and actively calm. He said, carry a portable paradise within you, wherever you go. He said, everything can wait, but your search for God cannot wait. So these are examples of what he said. We'll come back to these points just after the break. Somebody is asking me to repeat the name. So this is the name, Autobiography of a Yogi by Paramahansa Yogananda, and his childhood name was Mukund Lal Ghosh. Okay, so over to Atul Khosla. Professor Khosla will show you a video. He will add some ideas on emotional intelligence. And over to you, Atul, and then I'll be back with more.
Thank you, Vivek. Inspiring as always, as I always say.
Thank you.
So, teachers, EQ, as we all know, is so critical in today's world. It's even more in, I think, in the current 21st century. And the answer is very simple because knowledge is not a key skill anymore. We can get knowledge out of the Wikipedia or Google. What is critical today is our ability to work with humans, is our ability to collaborate with other people. It's our ability to get ordinary people do extraordinary things. Creativity, inspiration, and leadership are extremely important traits of emotional intelligence. As teachers, I think our role is to make ordinary students extraordinary. I can talk about myself. I was very average in school. I scored 74% in my 10th and then 76% in my 12th. I yet made it to IIT, and I was the first student from Himachal to ever clear the JEE. I did it because I got some amazing inspiration from some of my teachers. And that's what happens when you give that inspiration. I always tell my faculty members that it's easy to make great students extraordinary. There's no big deal. But can you take the belly of the country and make them extraordinary? And the day you do that, India will become a great country again. I would like to bring an example of Aman, a student of ours at Shulini right now. Aman was an average student. a difficult student, I would say, in her undergrad and masters. And magic happened in her PhD. She got some great leadership from her guide, Dr. Saurabh Kulshrestha. She collaborated with professors across the world. And we gave her the freedom to think. We gave her the freedom to be creative. And bingo, she created magic. Aman has won the Young Water Fellowship. It's a UN's fellowship. More than 1,000 researchers across the world apply for it every year. She's gone to Geneva as part of this fellowship. She's won a 25 lakh award from Tata Trust. She's actually discovered a molecule that enters water. It's a biomolecule and kills bacterial activity in water by 99.9%. You know what? She might even change the way we drink water. Who knows? She might even win the Nobel Prize. And that's what EQ can do. So I'm going to show a small video, if you allow me, Vivek, and we'll then get into the discussion. This is the magic of EQ. And I think if all of us collaborate and all of us break the box, become creative, if we become inspirational teachers, India will become such a better place. In fact, all of you already are. You're all Corona warriors out there ensuring that your students are learning every day. Despite the fact that you have work at home, you're making sure that not a single day of learning is lost. So salute to all of you. This stuff of Aman, this case study of Aman, Vivek is not just Aman. There are hundreds of other students at Shulini doing extremely, extremely well. I'm very proud to state that Shulini today is the highest patent filer in the country. So last year we filed 210 patents. Second is IIT Chennai with 141. And we don't get better students than IIT for sure. We do it because we give the students the culture to think, to be free, and to produce extraordinary results. Vivek, over to you.
Thank you very much, Atul. And what an inspiring story, video. I'm sure that those watching in Kolkata and other areas will be very fascinated by the story of Aman. Let me tell you that Shulini University has such a research orientation and such an innovative approach to education that I've been absolutely impressed. I've been going there regularly, and I teach, I speak, I advise Shulini. I'm a regular part of the Shulini family. It's a pleasure and joy to be there, and such an innovative university and so much focus on research that it's become the highest patent filer institution in the country. Absolutely astounding. So coming back to emotional intelligence, and Atul is very rightly saying that in today's age, everybody is intelligent to some extent, everybody has knowledge, but very few people focus on emotional intelligence. You are aware, most of you teachers, that social emotional learning is something that is talked about nowadays. And social emotional learning comes from a deliberate attempt to imbibe in children these skills of interaction with others, appreciating others, and getting into the fact that their personalities have to be well-rounded. If we look at the students, if they are unidimensional, then it won't really work for them in their careers. I have written a book on success, and it's called Finding Success Within. And this book shows how if you have high emotional intelligence, if you have all-round skills, if you have communication skills, people skills, networking skills, interaction skills, then you will be more successful than someone who only gets 99% marks. I say only 99% marks. Here you are. This is the book. It's called Finding Success Within, 52 Life Skills for Young Indians. I will be showing you my website at the end, and you can have a look at the book from there more in detail. But talking about what is success and what is happiness and why does emotional intelligence come into play, if we look at our journey on this planet, whether we are teachers or students or parents, sometimes we are both parents and teachers. So what do? We have to look at it in the context of, are we actually enjoying what we are living and doing? Are we enjoying our day? Are we just doing our job for salary, or are we actually getting something out of it which is beyond salary and little things like that? Are we getting that true deep satisfaction? Sometimes our motivational levels, they dip. Even students, they find themselves unmotivated at times because they have fears and worries. Fears and worries are part of everybody. But emotional intelligence tells us that these worries need not come true. Even if some of them come true, they will pass. We have to bounce back. We have to pass through that period knowing that the bend which takes us to our destination is just coming. So it's a winding road, a journey, and suddenly you find that you have reached your destination. Those who are patient and those who persevere, they have a higher level of emotional intelligence. Impatience, restlessness, irritability, losing your temper are signs of weakness. These are signs of frailties. Human beings are liable and prone and habitual of such things, of course. But it is necessary for us to realize and analyze where are we headed as human beings. So if we analyze our own minds and introspect, do I lose my cool? Do people bother me a lot? Do small things irritate me? Am I the one in the class who is always grumpy and complaining? Or in the group as a student? Or as a teacher, am I the only one in the faculty room who's always cribbing about this and that? You'll be going back to the faculty room after the lockdown. But whenever you do, is that the case? Or am I the one who's normally cheerful and normally gung-ho? Sometimes I feel low. So I would rather be the latter, and I would try to be the latter. So these are the things which we need to look at in our persona. Of course, life pushes us down. Life beats us up. Life poses problems and troubles. That is when we turn to God. When we turn to God, then He tells us that, okay, I'll look after you. If we meditate regularly, we find life easier to handle. I started about 12 years ago, and I find that meditation has increased my calmness, has increased my emotional intelligence. If I used to lose my temper once in a while, it is now very, very, very rare, and everybody around me is very happy about that. And it is something that I've worked on. So you have to work on yourself. You have to work on self-development. And another thing on emotional intelligence is the creativity aspect. Creativity. Creativity means that I am a superior individual to someone who cannot think beyond certain confines. If I can think beyond these confines, these limits, then that means I'm thinking totally differently from people. I, at the age of 40, 50, whatever I am, I want to play the guitar. I want to write a book. I want to enter a poetry competition. I'm a teacher, but I also want to learn the salsa. So I am someone who norms don't really support. I break norms at times. I'm not habitual of breaking norms, but at times I do things which people might say are crazy. My daughter Kavya, she's the younger one. I have two daughters. She has a word weird. I don't like the word weird because I'm a purist in language. I even don't like the word disruptive, which is in corporate usage these days. However, these words have come to stay. Disruptive used to have a negative connotation. Today, disruptive has a creative connotation. So they say you disrupt the norm and you do something new. I may not agree with the word, but I agree with the idea. And my daughter also talks about weird people. She says, we love weird people. I am weird, she's weird, I get on very well with her. That's what she says. So weird in that sense of being creative, if they use that word, and I'm sure these 11th, 12th class students who are here, they identify with all these words. So whatever you call it, if you have that creativity quotient inside, you can call it CQ. If you have that creativity quotient, that means your emotional intelligence is superior. And that means that little setbacks will not knock you down, will not bother you, trouble you. So you will be able to come out of these quite unscathed and not harmed. Who is the one who loses the battle of life? The one who loses the battle of life is the one who thinks too much, overthinking, over worrying, over stressing, over tension, too much thinking of the worst. That is the person who's losing the battle of life, I'm afraid. Everybody can be like that at times. Not all the time. Not most of the time. Not even half of the time. Maybe 10% or 2% or 5% of the time, okay. I'm an engineer, so I talk in terms of percentages. 5%, 10%, that's all. Not more than that. I observed in my service that I could be surrounded by people who were of all kinds. Some who were, let's say, not very honest. Some who were, let's say, not very cool. But I could retain my own character, my own dignity, my own way of working, just by being aware of my own shortcomings or my own strengths and being aware of others also. So emotional intelligence is that awareness which helps you to conduct yourself in an exemplary manner and tells you what you should be doing, what you should not be. I am going to tell you the story of a little young boy who went onto the stage when he should not have. And it's a new story I've read recently. I love it. And how fearlessness is part of our life at a young age. But somewhere along the way, we become too scared and worried. So what happened was a mother and her child, they went to a piano concert. Now, children below 10 are not allowed, but he was 7 years old and somehow this mother smuggled the child inside. And when they went inside, they sat down. The mother saw a friend sitting 2 rows ahead. The program had not started yet. So the mother goes to the friend and says to the child, first, don't get up from here. When she comes back, she finds the child is gone. Obviously, children will not sit quietly and without moving around. The child actually goes backstage and sees a sign which says no admission. Nobody notices. But the child, being a child, walks into that no admission door and goes onto the stage. The curtain opens and the mother comes back to the seat to find that the child has gone. And she's like, where is he? She turns around and finds him sitting on the stage with the piano. And Pedrewski, the great piano master of Poland, is to play. He became the prime minister of Poland a few years later after this incident. Not because of this incident, but generally. And he comes and starts, watching this child who's playing the piano. And the mother is screaming and trying to get the child down. But everybody is a little upset. The maestro, Pedrewski, he goes and sits down with the child and plays the piano, improvising with the child. A 1 hour or 2 hour concert goes on with the child and Pedrewski. who improvises just with the child's little fingers. That becomes the most talked about concert in the history of that town. And it becomes so popular, the mother becomes famous, the child becomes famous, and I'm sure that child goes on to greatness somehow. But that little bit of naughtiness, that little bit of fearlessness sometimes takes us far in life. We don't have to be rash, but a child of 7 could not have known better. He did whatever he could. Sometimes we become too scared, too fearful. So we need to have more faith, less fear. We need to have more optimism, less realism. People become too realistic. They are like, no, this cannot happen. The virus will stay for 10 years. Don't talk like that. There's no point. You are not an expert, not more than I am. So let us not talk of the worst. Let us talk of positivity. Let's spread good news. If you have bad news, keep it inside your pocket. Don't spread it. So therefore, it is very, very important for us to realize what we say, how we say it, and the manner in which we conduct ourselves. These are the things that matter in life. People respect us for what we are, not the content of what we say. It's how we are. Are we examples for the others? Are we able to lead them to the right path? Are we able to show the way just by being what we are? These are things that matter. So I'm very glad to see so many people. We're going to have Q&A in a while. I will request Professor Atul Khosla to say a few words. He has a lot of experience, Atul does. I'm sure from his journey, which is very variegated and diverse, he'll come up with some incident. And I'm sure that we'll have lots of questions at the end for both of us. Over to you, Atul.
Thank you, Vivek. I was extremely intrigued by this thought of fearlessness, because that's so critical when it comes to becoming a great leader. I think in this particular case, not just the child, but also Pedrosky were extremely fearless, and that's really what's needed. But I'd like to introduce two more concepts over here, which I think are so critical in today's world. The one is dreaming and passion. Some of you might be fond of Bollywood movies. There's a dialogue of Shah Rukh Khan, इतनी शिद्दत से तुम्हें पाने की कोशिश की है कि हर जर्रे ने हमें मिलाने की साजिश की है. That's what passion does. If you want something, like you really want it, then the universe will make you get it. Optimism. You just have to be optimist and start believing that you'll get it. And that is really the story of Shulini, Vivek, that I'd like to tell today. So my father actually started dreaming about building a great university. He was 65. He was a professor. He had 20 lakhs in his pocket, and he had no political connections. I used to be in Switzerland in those days, and he gets on the phone and calls me and says, my nickname at home is Shishu. So he says, Shishu, I want to make a university that's world class. I said, wow, Dad, that's a great idea. How much money do you have? He said, I have 20 lakh rupees. So I call up my mother and I tell her that, Mom, great idea. I think it's doable, but please make sure you do not mortgage your house, because if you do, then don't come back to me, don't come back to me as a son, I told them. People laughed at him. They said, how can you build a university? Not to say anything against the IAS, Vivek, but there was an IAS officer that we took our report to. He took our report and he read it and laughed at us and said, how can you do research in a private university? And he threw it into the dustbin in front of me. In fact, he was from IIT Kanpur, and he told me that, Atul, apna time mat waste karo. Go, I'm telling you because I'm alumnus of yours, I'm a friend of yours. Don't waste your time building a university. Don't leave your corporate job. Continue with that. But I think that's what passion and optimism does. We never thought we'll ever fail, Vivek. We thought we are destined for greatness, and we built a university, and we built it the way we wanted to, with no compromises. And we are very, very lucky that we are fiercely independent. Today, as we speak and we talk about research, Vivek, we are top 3 in research in the country. We are ahead of many, many IITs and some of the best universities of the country when it comes to research and giving great careers to our students. So our passion is to build young Indians, young human beings, and build them into extraordinary citizens. That's our story. I'd love to share a small video as part of this so you all will understand what I'm talking about, students and teachers. But I wanted to leave, when you think about EQ, I wanted to leave this concept of optimism and passion with all of you. I'm extremely passionate, but sometimes I go a little negative. I've never heard my father ever speak negative things. I've never heard Vivek ever speak negative things. He's always smiling, and I think when the two combine, magic also happens. So a video, and then we'll get into Q&A.
Throughout history, the young have always been the ones to shape the future. And they continue to do so today. You are the country's biggest asset, our best bet to conquer the future. So what are you waiting for? Your time to dream is now. Dream of the research that can change the world. Dream of a high-flying corporate career. Dream of higher studies in the world's best universities. Dream of developing cutting-edge technology of the future. Dream of your own global startup. At Shooting University, we empower you and enable you to chase your dreams and change the world. Shooting University. Think learning, think success.
So if there's students watching this webinar, if anyone tells you, students, that you can't do it, don't believe them. All of you can be super successful. And to all the teachers, it's those crazy students that you have. They're the ones who are going to make it successful. As we call it, the square pegs in the round holes. Because if you're not crazy enough to change the world, or if you're not crazy enough to think that you can change the world, you never will. And the ones who think they can are the ones who will. So do give a little bit of, I would say, encouragement to those crazy kids that you have. It's not the 99.9% kid who's really going to make you proud. It's probably going to be someone else. And that's what EQ is going to be all about for as teachers are concerned. Vivek, your last thoughts. I want 2 sentences from you, and then we get into Q&A.
Sure, Atul, well said. Absolutely very inspiring to see. So my last thoughts are that firstly, we need to work on our minds. That mind, which is part of us every day, every morning, every evening, needs to be worked upon, analyzed, and assessed, and then we move forward accordingly. So we can have Q&A now.
Lovely. I think as teachers, please put in your questions. You can either do it in the Q&A or chat section of the webinar. But before we get into the Q&A, Vivek, I have a couple of questions for you, if you allow me.
Sure, Atul, please.
You know, you are so empathetic. You have such amazing emotional intelligence. Were you always like this, or can you just build it over time? Can you build and learn emotional intelligence, or are you born with it?
I think you're right. It is to be built up. I don't think I was always like that. I don't think I have very high emotional intelligence even now. Maybe I have reasonably high emotional intelligence. There are people I see who are calmer, more, cheerful, more balanced than I can believe. So it's absolutely very vital to keep on improving. I think you can build it up over the years. I know you have been telling me, and I've been also like that. There was a time when I would lose my cool at times, not too much, but I would also maybe give up hope at times, worry a little more than I do. So nowadays, that worry has reduced to a minimum. You know that in this time when we've been under lockdown, we've been having discussions. You and I have been so gung ho about things, and this webinar series is one of the ways in which we try and make others as well, spread that, receive that air of positivity. So I think we are among the people who have reasonably high emotional intelligence, Atul, and we can be quite happy that we've come to that stage.
Wonderful. My second question, Vivek, is tell us about the person who's really influenced you the most and has had the best EQ in your opinion. Anyone that you've met, tell us the story.
Yeah, so I must mention the monks of YSS here. I mean, there's no other better people that I have met. We recently had a lecture and a guided meditation led by Swami Smarnanandji of YSS. Shulini University had hosted that lecture. And in fact, that guided meditation was followed by thousands of people. I don't know how much the number has gone up to for both those videos. It's still available. So I noticed that these monastics, when they have left their normal lives, gone into the ashram at a young age, and then they've been meditating for 40 years or 30 years or even 20 years, they have something about them which I always feel that something missing in us. However, they say that we are to do the battle of this life in our householder roles, in our career roles, and balance our lives with whatever meditation we can. So they admire us and we admire them. So I think those are the people that I really look up to.
Wonderful. Let's go into Q&A. So Saloni ma'am, Saloni Sengupta is asking, there's a lot of current talk about using tact.
Tact.
So tact, I think she's talking about being tactful. Do you think that's the right thing to do, or should you just be yourself?
Yeah, so being from the civil service, I must give you an example. I know for a fact that many a time, supposing I have a team of 15 people in my command, I have to get work out of them. I have to use tact in certain ways. There is somebody who is very, very capable, but not putting in his best efforts. So instead of, discouraging him and scolding him and telling him you are unable to perform, I know you could have done it, but you're careless, this, that. So you use tact by saying that, this person who is newly joined is really making rapid strides. He's doing very well. I'm very happy to see the way he's working. He's your colleague, right? So this person will then realize that he's praising this new guy, and therefore I have something to learn. So tactfully, you get into his mindset or her mindset in a way that this person wants that praise as well. This is just an example of people understanding and using tact to get things done. But tact has a negative connotation also. And you must realize that trying to be too tactful could be someone who is into, to use a very strong word, into kinds of machinations, into intrigue, into, kind of being over clever. So we don't need to do that. We need to be sensible and we need to be tactful when required.
I think the word I'm going to use over here, Vivek, is empathy.
Yeah.
If you can put yourself into the shoes of the other person, your war is won. And I'll give a small example over here. I'm extremely unorganized. I'm so disorganized that I would decide to go on a vacation pretty much in the last moment. Last 1 hour, I can pick up the car keys and say, let's go to Rajasthan for a long drive. My wife is completely the opposite. She needs to plan 3 months in advance for even going out from home. And that's where clash happens. So what do? Of course, then I wear my wife's hat. Of course, I have no other option, Vivek. I think this one, you don't have any option. But I think that's the way to do it. Put yourself into the shoes of the other person. So rather than tact, I would say, do it in a positive way. Do it in an empathetic way. And that's the next question. So Shruti Banerjee is asking, is empathy also a factor of emotional intelligence? And how do we bring empathy into e-learning?
Into e-learning. Yeah. So basically, empathy is, and Atul has just mentioned empathy. So E for empathy and E for e-learning. Yes. Somehow you have to appreciate and understand someone who's on the other side of the camera, whether that person is standing in front of you or is there. Whenever you speak to that person and listen to that person, you can get to know what this person's mindset, thinking, ability, creative ability, emotional intelligence level is. It's a conversation after all. And if you have empathy, you will be able to put yourself in that person's or that student's shoes. At times, you see, it could be that you're not able to hear properly on e-learning, or you are not able to position your camera properly. These are factors that need to be negated. So practice a lot of camera presence. Atul and I have worked on our position of the camera, where we are sitting. Atul will tell you, I mean, being in front of a camera, he says, is like being an actor. And that's absolutely true. But you have to be at your best performance there. Once you are comfortable in your zone, then sitting in front of a screen interacting with someone or sitting across the table has very little difference. You have to adapt to that. And then to have empathy means to understand that person's way of thinking and bring yourself to mold your decisions and your sentences accordingly.
So there's a question for me, Vivek, and we'll get into the Q&A thing in a second. I think they're two separate discussions which are happening. But I'll also request Amita ma'am to come live. If you're hearing us, Amita ma'am, we'd love to also get your opinions. So I'm being asked, can an emotional decision become a rational decision? Any example? So I would say, you know, when you're very emotional, sometimes you can be irrational. So one of the things, especially on email, it's so very easy to, you know, reply on email and show your emotions. So one of the things which I do, Vivek, is if I'm extremely passionate about something or very upset about something, I send my email to a draft, into the draft box rather than, you know, send it out. It's better to sleep over your email or SMS or a WhatsApp. Sometimes your emotional mind can kill your rational mind. Doesn't mean that you should not be emotional. I think you should be emotional. You should take your decisions based on emotion, but do bring in the rational mind while balancing your emotions. So I think that's the way I'll answer it.
Right.
I think, I don't know whether you agree with me, Vivek, but I think sometimes we, you know, I'm extremely
Yeah, we should not jump to conclusions and say things out of emotion. We should, yes, sleep over them, think over them, especially when sensitive matters are concerned.
And I think it's so very much easier nowadays, Amita ma'am, you know, it's very easy to drop an SMS or a WhatsApp. I know, you know, for young girls and guys, young kids in universities like ours, you know, they break up on WhatsApp nowadays. You know, so it's so easy, or they'll even fall in love on WhatsApp. So that's at least my answer. And we have Aparna ma'am asking, and probably Amita ma'am, you could answer this: how to build or enhance emotional intelligence in our daily life activities? What's the best way to do that?
I really don't think there's any formula which I think we can share. But one thing which I agree with Vivek sir is, I think role models make a difference, and particularly when we are talking up to a student audience, I feel that if they look around them and if they come across role models whom they can look up to and maybe aspire to be like them, that is hugely motivating. So even if it's hard to do, at least you know that, okay, one day I want to be like that person. So that's one very important thing I feel. Secondly, I feel that, and I think I speak for myself partly over here, is that experience is the greatest teacher. Because I feel that in the process of growing up, we've all said things which we have regretted terribly later. And we've done things which we wish we had never done. And it's only when you realize, like you said, you've shot off an email or you've shot off a message in the heat of the moment, you've said something really which you would regret, and you later in life you wish you had never said those things. With that experience, you realize that now I'm much more in control of myself. I'm much more in control of situations where I don't allow myself to be reactive. I think that experience has taught me that to a large extent.
Right.
I so agree with you, ma'am. And I think there's a question which says, should you be oneself where you really lose? And this is Oppo 31, so I don't know your name, Oppo. So you're basically asking this question, should you be yourself and lose your temper at the drop of a hat, or how to deal with students or colleagues do that? I mean, I would say, you have to practice, and Vivek spoke about meditation. I have a terrible temper. I get up every day telling myself, I will not lose my temper. I am human, so sometimes I do, and some of my colleagues are there. But over the years, I've got better. So I think by being conscious of your challenges, you can also improve. That's the way I look at it. So Vivek, lots of questions on the Q&A side, the 8 questions. You want to pick them up quickly? I think we've got 6-7 minutes left, and I want to cover every question. So quickly, between you, me, and Amita ma'am, we'll answer all these questions.
Yeah, so Saloni ma'am is asking if we become genial and good-natured, people take us lightly. I like the spellings of Saloni, very different. The thing is that we have to basically be firm, and we need to be determined to get things done. We cannot be taken lightly in that case. So we may be genial, we may be good-natured, good-tempered, always sweet and cheerful, but people know that this person cannot be taken lightly. That is the balance that you need to achieve. Then only you can be a leader, because when we talk of leadership, it is the ability to get things done, and that team will look up to you because you are well mannered and good to talk to, but they know that this person means business. That balance has to be struck. And another one, Atul.
Let's go to, I think, Q&A. Nivedita ma'am is asking, how do I build emotional intelligence among students?
Yeah, Nivedita ma'am is asking that. Yeah.
So my tip would be get into a lot of collaborative and teamwork type of activities with the students. I will encourage your students to do team sports, but definitely make sure that you give common projects. Many times teachers come back and say, if you give teamwork, only one student does the work, others, they're just followers. But I think that's the learning that they're getting, right? So I would say teamwork is one thing that they should do. I don't know, Vivek, what thoughts you have apart from that?
Absolutely correct. And get them into situations where they are with unfamiliar children who are from different groups. They get into group activities, as you said, where children from different economic backgrounds, regional backgrounds could be there. That helps them in their social emotional learning also. But let me answer Ishita ma'am's question, who is saying that there may be someone who intentionally wants to intimidate us or mistreat us. It's a challenge to be emotionally intelligent for such people. Yes, so life challenges us, Ishita, and life is not a bed of roses. Life is full of ups and downs, and we have to find our happiness in the midst of these ups and downs. We cannot wait for 2032 to come when we will be absolutely happy. It won't happen. It will be every year, every day, every situation that you have to find that happiness. If there is someone who is unreasonable like that in your life, then it is important to try and keep your cool as far as possible, not react to smaller provocations. Maybe when that person crosses limits, then you fight back in whatever manner you can. If that person is not an essential part of your life, please move out of that company. If that person is an essential part of your life, then try your level best to improve that person by your own example. That's all I can say.
So Vivek, I'll try to bring in the concept of passive aggressiveness over here.
Yes.
Many times when you're working with colleagues, we get into situations of passive aggressiveness. That basically means we're smiling at each other, but we want to kill each other. I'm sure you've got colleagues like that. In my opinion, that's the most dangerous situation to be in. So the best way to deal with passive aggressiveness is to actually get into a conflict. We actually fight because that kills the passive aggressiveness. So sometimes having a tutu meme or having an aggressive discussion with each other is not that bad. Of course, you need to have your limits, but confronting someone, if you think, or having a hard talk with someone sometimes works. I would say the shit hits the roof. Have that serious discussion with your colleague.
I totally agree. Sometimes it is necessary, but most of the time, even then, you retain your emotional control. And another thing is that sometimes if you are into sports or energy dissipation in other ways, then you are able to control your emotions better. Sports people or youngsters who are spending 45 minutes to 60 minutes on the ground, they will sleep better, their temperament will be better, they will be calmer, because they have expended that extra energy in sports rather than in fist fights or arguments or things like that. And that is something also.
So
There's another
Vivek,
one.
we have, yeah, should
No,
I
you
pick
go
it
ahead.
up or, yeah. So anonymous attendee is asking, so anonymous attendee, next time, put your name. I think that's also part of EQ to have the courage to write your name. So you're asking, how do you deal with the situation of bullying? I think Amita ma'am is the best person to talk about here because I'm sure she deals with bullying every day.
Bullying.
So your answer, Amita ma'am, how do you deal with bullying?
I think that would be a topic for a whole separate webinar. It's difficult to just sum it up in a couple of sentences. But I feel that at the end of the day, you need to stand up for your own rights. I think bullies are bullies because you allow them to be bullies. And if people can understand that you have an inner strength and you have an ability to stand up for what you believe in, they will respect you, and they will, after maybe one or two attempts, they'll stand off because they know they can't walk over you.
So true, ma'am. So true. I think we've got 1 or 2 minutes left, Vivek. So I'll pick up 2 more questions. So Polemy Sen is asking, can being selfish being justified? Can you justify being selfish?
I think selfish is a negative connotation. You can be your best friend and you can back yourself most times and think of your own happiness. There's no harm in that. But if you are self-centered or selfish, that means that you are thinking about yourself at the cost of everybody else, and your ego is too high. So what we have to be is to be balanced between looking after our own interests and the interests of our family, our team, our colleagues. If we are too selfish, that means we won't be a team player at all. We will not be looking after others at all. We will only be thinking of ourselves. So when there's a decision to be made, that there's one mango on the table, will I eat it or will my family eat it? Well, sometimes you eat it and sometimes let the family eat it.
That's a good one. I think the last question, Vivek, Shrabani Basu is asking how to deal with students with a superiority complex without hurting them.
Yeah, so these types of students are there and they need to be counseled probably personally. I personally feel that in a classroom situation, to tell them off is one thing. If you call them a little separately and talk to them calmly, they will understand it and appreciate it a bit more. I must tell you that people react very differently when other people are in the vicinity, when you tell them something. So it's better to talk to them one-to-one.
And I think the last question that we have from Bhupender Doshi is, how do we keep our emotions balanced in difficult situations? I'll definitely recommend meditation, but Vivek is the guru here and so is Amita ma'am. So last words on meditation, Vivek, before we request you and Amita ma'am to give your last word.
Absolutely. I agree with Atul that if you work on your mind offline, when that person is not there or that situation is not like that, that is the time to actually cultivate your calmness. And once you've cultivated it, you will utilize it in that situation. So you need to meditate, you need to read, you need to listen to music, sing. Kolkata has a great tradition of music and art and singing. And let me tell you, Amita ma'am, that I really love some of the names which are on display. Beautiful Bengali names. I love these names, both the boys and the girls, and fantastic art culture. So in Kolkata, you have no excuse to be materialistic. Get into the arts and creativity.
Absolutely, all of them. I'm going to pick up. I'm very tempted to pick up a comment that Dipali Lalwani is saying. She's saying that smile is absolutely wonderful at times. And I always tell my friends and my students, Dipali, that smiles are great. Even if you artificially smile, I know people who look into the mirror and smile and it actually takes the stress away. And by the way, for people who smile, it's also great for the skin. So it releases dopamine. It's
Yes.
scientific. So you'll also get a glow on your face. So I smile a lot. So that's one of my, secrets, Vivek, I'm giving away. So do you, I know that. Okay, lovely. I think last thoughts from you, Vivek, before we close.
Yes,
anything that you would like to, as just one thing you'd like people to
Yeah,
know.
sure. Just the last thought, that stay connected. LinkedIn, Instagram, I'm there. Don't overdo social media, but use it for your career progression, your networking, and please read lots of books as teachers. Students who are watching, please read lots of books as well, and life will become much, much more enriching than it is now. You see Shulini University's website, you see my website or my social media handle on Instagram, LinkedIn. Stay connected with us, and Atul and I will be very happy to hear from you. Thank you.
Absolutely. Lots of questions, and we wish we could answer all. I think we've done 90%. That's one thing I've learned from Vivek, by the way, Amita ma'am, to go through every question of every person as much as possible with their individual names. People feel really good about it. So before we close, your thoughts, Amita ma'am, and just half a minute for you.
So I just want to take this opportunity to express a huge thank you to Shulini University for making this afternoon possible. I've been looking at some of the comments in the chat section, and I think that says it all. Everybody has found this to be truly enriching, very, very inspiring, and particularly in these times of lockdown when a lot of people are struggling with keeping their motivation high, keeping themselves happy. I think this afternoon session has been really rewarding. So thank you very much, Professor Khosla, and thank you very much, Vivek, for sharing your thoughts and for sparing the afternoon to be with my colleagues and with the students of Indus Valley World School. And should you ever visit Kolkata, we would be really, really delighted to host you in person in our school. Because although webinars are great, I still feel it's no substitute for a person-to-person in-life experience. So please come and visit our school, come and visit our city, and we'll be very happy to have you with us. Thank you so
Amita
much.
ma'am, before we close, I'm a little upset. I'm upset because you called me Professor Khosla and Vivek. So I take it as an offense. But I have to also tell you, jokes apart, I love Bengali food. I love your Rosogollas. I've spent at least 2 years of my life in Kolkata. I used to have clients there. Willems and Megor was my client when I was in consulting. So would love to come and visit you, but you'll have to treat us to true Bengali food, which I'm sure you will.
It's absolutely done.
And would really love to have your teachers and students over at Shulini. If any one of them is looking at studying science or any other area that Shulini does, do reach out to me or go to our website. We'll be delighted to welcome lots and lots of Calcuttan students, by the way, from West Bengal are coming to Shulini. I've always believed that the most savvy students, Vivek, are those from West Bengal. They understand the concept of return on investment and they don't go by ads and stuff like that. And sometimes I wonder why will anyone come all the way from Calcutta, but we've had some huge successes. So once again, thank you everyone. Would love to meet in person. Corona is going to go away, I'm sure. Vivek tells me that it's a matter of time and we will come back much happier and with much more economic activity. If you're thinking otherwise, don't believe what the press tells you. Thank you very much. Be safe. Amita ma'am, can't thank you more. Vivek, as always, very charming and inspiring. Have a great day.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you so much.